Steve Jobs once said, "Innovation is what separates a leader from a follower." In 2007, Steve Jobs released the first iPhone.
An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not three separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today,
it wasn't the first touchscreen or the first phone, but was innovative by perfecting them both to be simple and user-friendly. In an interview with Mark Pincus, the founder of Zynga, with Steve Jobs about the use of microtransactions in apps, you can hear how fervent Steve Jobs is against such a pandering feature.
But what I was going to say is, after the dinner, after he had complimented me and said he thought our app was going to do well, I thought he kind of liked me, or something. I thought he was warming up. And I said, "Steve, have you," obviously he considered this, but I said, why aren't you guys enabling in-app purchase? Or why aren't you enabling I called it user pay then, as we used to call it. I don't think it was called in-app purchase yet, but why aren't you allowing users to, in the beginning of the App Store, there was no in-app purchase. You had to buy, if we wanted to sell poker chips, we had 20 different SKUs, and there was like the $5 of chips poker, 20, it was the same product, but it'd come with chips, because we weren't allowed to sell it in the app. And I said, why don't you allow that? Don't you think that could be a big business? And he said, he just dismissed it. He was like, no, that makes no sense whatsoever. And I listened to him, believed him to be, he sounded so smart and right. I was like, oh,
But of course now, they dominate almost every app across the Apple marketplace. And this, I believe, perfectly encapsulates why Apple is failing with the iPhone X and always has without Steve Jobs. See, Steve Jobs only wanted Apple products to work with other Apple products because 1, money, and 2, because the team he led pioneering innovative ideas such as the app marketplace, where at the time they were the only players in this field. The last actually innovative idea from Apple, the iPad, was released in 2010. But now, Apple is playing catch-up. Wireless charging, dual cameras, smartwatches, HomePods, OLED displays, and water resistance, all innovated and established by other companies, and then copy and pasted by Apple with minor improvements. Now, I've always been an Apple fanboy, but these two specific changes spurred Apple's fall from grace for me. The Lightning port was a design improvement over the chunky 32-pin charger of yesteryear. But now, USB-C has surpassed the Lightning port in usability and in performance. But instead of Apple simply adopting such a useful tool, they adhere rigidly to the failed notion that Apple shouldn't use others' hardware, but have all proprietary hardware, and charge their customers extra to harness the useful features of USB-C. And finally, the notorious auxiliary port. My truck doesn't have Bluetooth, and I never want it to. The auxiliary port is simple, uniform, and still a necessity for many people. Apple got rid of it, but not to be innovative or create a completely different way to experience music, but on a failed notion of what innovation really is. Steve Jobs said, "What is Apple after all? Apple is about people who think outside the box, people who want to use computers to help them change the world, to help them create things that make a difference, and not just get a job done." Tim Cook and the present state of Apple aren't trying to change the world, but simply coasting off Steve Jobs' prodigious legacy to garner money from their loyal fan base, while failing to innovate and subsequently becoming a company of followers. Thank you. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment for more content.